back to the UK Thrashers radio show. This is season 2, episode 17. This is Novichok, and this is Cease and Desist.
Mentality, come to me to enslave through deceit, faceless animosity, propaganda designed to break my rocky me. Step on the line and they come be a line in his vein. It fosters the violence, fear spreads. Cease and desist. Control raises. Cease and desist. Cease and desist. Control raises. Authority, state power getting corrupt, the down insane. Mind scratched with an iron fist, ultimate aid. Show me your shoulder, no one to trust. Cease and desist. Control raises. Cease and desist. Cease and desist. Control raises.
From the north of England to the south, this is Day of Wrath, and this is Sweet Release. And now it's time for this week's interview. This is Preston Thrashers Solitary. This week in the studio, we have got UK Thrashers Solitary. Welcome to the show, guys.
How you doing?
How you
doing? As a quick introduction, do you want to quickly go around the bazaars? And I think most people know who you guys are, but do a quick who you are and what you do in the band.
Yeah, I'm Rich. Yeah, I'm the front man and I play guitar as well.
I'm Royston. I play the drums and moan a lot.
I'm Andy. Rhythm and lead guitars.
And I'm Gareth, bass.
Okay, so you guys, history of the band, you've been going for over 25 years. How did it all start off? Rich, it was kind of down to you. I know you're the longest serving member of the band. How did it all kick off in the early days?
Well, I just wanted to be in a band, I think. Coming from Preston, we had Zentrix, and I was like their Uber fan. I won a competition to meet them back in 1990 and spend the day with them when they recorded Dialect to Taste. And from that point onwards, I just decided that's what I wanted to do. It had to happen. Messed around, with early incantations of the band, and then I got together something in 1994, and then I've never stopped. Well, we've never stopped since.
But like 94, kind of, I know it's a bit of a cliche, but thrash was pretty much on its arse by that point. Most people had either fucked off to listen to grunge, or a lot of people who were into thrash in the late 80s, early 90s had kind of dropped into death metal and doom and stuff. Did you realise you were getting in on the back end of a bit of a dying trend, for want of a better term?
Absolutely, but that didn't matter. Everything else was shit in comparison to thrash, and still is. So that's what I wanted to do. Obviously, it was a different kind of thrash, wasn't it? Because that's sort of 94. That's when Machine Head kind of exploded, didn't they? So it kind of, we were a bit more like Machine Head, I think. Well, we weren't really. We were aspiring to be like Machine Head, but we were more like that than maybe Forbidden. Despite the fact that I wanted to sound like Forbidden, it wasn't possible. I think the more retro sort of sound has come over the years, really, because obviously the early stuff was fairly simple. It leaned a lot more towards what was going on in the 90s rather than what was going on in 1989. Yeah,
I was listening to, in fact, I flicked Requiem on earlier on, just to try and get myself a little comparison between the new album and some of the older stuff, because it all plays tricks in your brain, doesn't it? And your vocals back then, especially Rich, were a lot growlier. I think your voice sounds a lot richer on the new album. Do you think that's the case?
They were fucking rubbish on Requiem. Royston will tell you. What was it, Royston? What was all that about back then?
It was about Gothenburg, wasn't it? It was about trying to be as Swedish as possible, and we failed.
Yeah, pretty much. It was never my intention to do that vocal style all the way through, but that was what was going on then. It was more extreme. The straight ahead sort of sound that is acceptable now wasn't then. So you had to be multi-range vocalist. You'd have your singy bits, you'd have your low stuff, and then you'd have the other stuff. I gave it a good go.
So what about the rest of you? Who's the next long-serving kind of? Is that you, Roy?
It is, yeah.
So when did you jump on board?
1999.
Fucking hell, that's a long time ago, isn't it?
It's a lifetime ago, man. It's a lifetime ago. As you can tell, I'm not a local lad. So I was growing up in Essex, minding my own business, and just finished a music course with obviously the intention of getting into the music industry, and that had come to an end, and I was, what am I going to do? And obviously back in the day when Krang was still a metal magazine and I used to buy it, there was obviously an advert in the back for a signed band looking for a double bass drum drummer. And I thought, well, I'll do that, like, and give the number a bell, spoke to the old manager, said the band's based in Preston. I didn't even have a clue where Preston was, to be honest. And then,
north of Essex, it's fine.
Yeah, I had it sold to me of being just north of Manchester. So here we are, 21 years later, and we're still doing it. You know, that's the important thing.
And who was next? Is it kind of Gareth? Obviously, you've been
Well-
round the boy twice. You liked it so much, you went back for a second go.
Technically, I was in the band before Roy, but
You were.
obviously I had a rather large hiatus in the middle. But now I joined the band in like '98. I'm from Preston myself, so I used to at 16, 17, I was in the pubs watching Solitary, and then as I grew up, I had my own bands going on, and I ended up in a rehearsal space next door. At the time, I was at college with Rich's cousin, who was playing lead guitar at the time. So when they hit the studio, whatever happened with their bass player at the time, and I got the call. Couldn't have been more excited. I've been watching them at this point for 2-3 years, traveling with them, you know, helping out, roadieing, all this sort of stuff. So to sort of step up there on the stage as well was really exciting for me.
I think what year was it I joined? Was it 2000?
2003.
Not being from Preston or anything, we had looking to join a band. I'm from more Manchester way, so back then they had a paper called The Loot. So I had in that guitar is seeking band. I think the magic word I think that Richie saw must have been testament. I think I went to watch you guys first. I think Bradford Market Tavern, and about a week or so later, went up to rehearsal and joined the band.
I'm good. So, new album, Truth Behind the Lies, is coming out end of October on a brand new label, Metalville. Things must be good in the Solitary camp at the minute. You must be really happy with the way it's all kind of panned out after working your guts off for years. It seems to have finally paid providence, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's been 5 years of work to get to where we've got to. But yeah, I mean, to be signed to a larger German label with the infrastructure that Metalville have versus what we used to is phenomenal. So yeah, it's good.
So does that open up a load of extra doors to you? Is that giving you opportunities to get onto kind of European tours and hopefully European festivals and stuff? Does that kind of the Germans have kept metal and thrash alive for a decade in the middle where everyone else gave up? Does that give you lots of new opportunities that you might not have had if you're on a UK label or self-releasing?
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, we don't at the moment, because obviously everything's up in the air. We don't really know. There's lots of other things that could potentially come off from it. You kind of look at the bands that they've got on the label and that they've worked with. There's a lot of kind of older bands like Ugly Kid Joe, that kind of thing. But then there's some also younger sort of new wave thrash bands as well. You've got more scope when you have a base abroad, and I mean we kind of know that anyway from our experiences of having the European agent and being on that sort of like little label that we were.
You were talking earlier on that you weren't overly happy with the vocals on Requiem and kind of things like that. The new album has got really strong production. I think as a band, everything sounds where it should be. Roy's drums actually have got real depth in the mix this time, and do you think this gives you a chance to put Solitary on the map and actually make a statement of intent down a little bit more than maybe what's come previously?
Well, hopefully everyone's worked hard and put the time in, so it's nice to see that it's paid off a bit, and it does. You can hear it and well see it as well. Like when you look at the artwork as well, it's just all come together. And unfortunately, we can't go out and play it and do it to the masses, unfortunately. But that's the only downside at the moment. But
so was that the first time? Obviously, you talked about he's kind of worked with Napalm, Paradise Lost, people like that. Was that the first time you've worked with him?
No, we did Diseased with him as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we were used to him that way.
And vice versa.
I think it was more difficult this time than the last one, really, to be honest. Because the last one we kind of split it up. We sort of did the reamping and the vocals in one 3 or 4 day session, and then mixed it probably a month or so later. But then with this last one, it was all done. We were kind of like doing the vocals and in mix down as well at the same time. So it was kind of, that was a little bit more challenging because the pressure seemed to be on a little bit more this time. Two different experiences, I would say.
I think we had more of a deadline with this one than we did with the last one. Thing it was a little more stressful, this one, but you know.
Well, you've obviously rushed it because you've kind of gone out, 3 or 4 years between albums rather than the normal 9 or 10. So there's a you've self-inflicted at that point.
We'll start writing stuff early for the next one. So
it's gradually getting shorter and shorter. People will start expecting another one next year if you keep this up. Calm yourself down. I was going to ask you about the recording experience you just touched on. Obviously, I speak to a whole range of bands that recording in their mum's showers that they've glued egg boxes to home studios. Are you a mix? Are you kind of, did you say you got like rehearsal space studio and then real studio, or where are you, how are you doing it?
Yeah, we built our own studio back in 2013, I think, or 14 in our unit. So obviously we've got a control room in there. And obviously since then we've had the gear, so to speak. So we've always done the drums at home, if you will, in our own studio, which makes my life easier. Takes a lot of pressure off of me, rather than thinking I'm spending X amount of money here and I'm still struggling on like a certain part of a song. Obviously it backfired as well, because when we did Diseased in our own studio, me and Andy were doing it and I was canning it. I was on Cronenberg in between takes, which ain't very professional.
The beer fridge was too close, was it?
Live and learn,
That's it. You live and learn by your mistakes. So but obviously this time, again, where we were meeting our deadline, it was more focused. It was a lot more time to go. I think I had them done in about a day and a half, drum tracks. So, but yeah, it was definitely more focused this time. I can say that much.
Okay, so what about the rest of you? Did you all record at the home studio as well, or did you go off somewhere take you to the Bahamas like Maiden and do something exotic?
No, nothing quite as exotic like that. No, normal. What it do is then I've got a little setup here where we'll do the guitars. Now I'll take care of the guitar duties, and then Richard can focus on writing and doing all the vocals and stuff like that. So we'd not fully rehearsed before we were recording them guitar wise, or we'd come up with stuff and it's like, yeah, we need to put something cool there. And then when all the guitars are done, my end. And then fire it over to Gaz, who's got facilities at his place as well.
Yeah, we've been. I mean, although I grew up in Preston, and that's where I joined the band, I live over in Leeds now. So I don't take part in every band practice. Unfortunately, I get over like once a month, that kind of thing. So when it came to doing the parts for the album, we'd have like maybe a big practice at the start of the month. I'd learn all the new bits, have a look at all the new sections they'd written, go away, and then I'd get sent the stuff as they get happy with it. But of course, by the time it turns up to me, they might have decided, I'm going to tweak this, we're going to tweak that. So it was definitely had to keep on the ball and keep churning. It was a lot of fun.
So how does that songwriting process work? Which way do you approach it? Because everyone seems to have their own different approach. Is it get some riffs and then start building on top of that, or is it one of you comes up with a concept for a song, and which way round? Was it a kind of mix of all of that?
I think mainly it's I like to kind of do stuff and come to rehearsal a little prepared with something, or I'll send the guys, I'll do some at home and then send the guys over. So what do you think of this? And it's mainly I'd say it starts with a riff from either myself or Richard. And then obviously Royson will put a fat beat behind it, and then Rich will work on his vocals and do a bit of scatting over it when the time comes.
So where have all these songs been written, especially for this, or have any of them got kind of riffs that you've had sat in the riff bin and brought them back from the dead and refound them, or do you tend to kind of come in with each album with a fresh slate?
It's all for this album, really. Like you said before, we like to take our time in between recording albums, and writing material, but we didn't have that luxury. You know, we've been really, really busy, kind of from Disease coming out. We've kind of been busy all the time, really, for 3 years. So we've had to sort of force it in. Really, I think, to be honest, we've kind of written this album that over the course of, I would say, really 2019. When Gaz joined, we had a couple of ideas. I don't think there was any full songs. Like Andy says, he came up with 2 or 3. Years ago, we used to stand in a room and write songs together. But obviously, with the beauty of technology, you don't have to do that.
So lyrically, Rich, are you all the lyrics, most of the lyrics? You know, with people popping in the extra bit here and there. Is it all from your fevered imagination?
It's 100% me. But I do, so sometimes I do get desperate and kind of like ask for help, but I generally not from these 3 really.
Anybody else?
It's more, I kind of think, Jesus, who can help me write the lyrics for this one, because I'm struggling with it, So I think it was Abominate actually. I sort of I sent Paul the track and I said, I'm really struggling with this one, because I demoed it. Me and Andy had done some demos on it. It was just rubbish. And it just didn't work. So I sent it to Paul and he said, well, yeah, I'm up for it. But then suddenly I just came up with the idea, so I had to bin him off. I don't need you anymore, mate. Yeah, I'll shout you next time. So, but that would have been quite nice to actually, he was keen to do it. So it would have been quite nice to actually get him involved, with writing some words. But
do you find it difficult to kind of find topics that haven't been played to death, or that you can put your own spin on? Because obviously, the thrash vocal or lyrical storytelling range can sometimes be a bit narrow, can't it? There's only so many things you can rage about, and do you find it hard, or is there always enough things to be able to piss you off that you can kind of you want to shout about?
Well, to be honest, what I always tend to do is I kind of like, if we're it depends what I'm doing. There's only there's a handful of songs where I've written the words first, really. But the majority of the time, we'll have the music, and then I'll kind of listen to it, and then I'll just, as Andy eloquently put it, I'll scat over the top of it, and I come up with lines that sort of sound good, and I'll get a line, and I'll think, right, okay, what am I going to write this song about now? So it can be just the first. It's like a jigsaw, really. It's like trying to do a jigsaw without the
lid.
Where the ends are.
Without the pieces. It's like so. I never really set out and think, right, I'm going to write about this, I'm going to write about that. It's just, it kind of evolves, So yeah, I think there's always something you can talk about. If you get really desperate, you just go on about murderers, don't you? Something like that.
It's always a fail-safe. Yeah.
Pretty much. I've never done the sort of like the thrashing song, you know what I mean? Bang your head, fist pumping in the air and all that business. So I've still got that up my sleeve for when I get really desperate.
There's always pizza and beer, isn't there? There's a...
Yeah.
So you touched on Coot, who did your XXV 25 anniversary art. He's obviously done really cool artwork for the new album. How did that relationship start? Is that through the record company, and how does it work with him? Do you kind of sit with ideas, or
me?
Okay.
I don't know how I found him. I've always been a fan of his artwork. I kind of loved the back in the 90s. That Almighty album that he did. I thought that was brilliant. I remember being a kid and like having the T-shirt and everything, and just thought, oh, that's wicked. And then obviously he did the Slammer one as well, the Nightmare Scenario, which is probably my favourite album cover. I think it's great, that. So we were looking for somebody to do the artwork for this album. We weren't really thinking about the EP or anything back then, and so I just asked him. I just said, "Would you fancy doing it?" And he said, "Well, I've kind of retired now," but he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll have a listen to your stuff." And he says, "If I'm into it and if I like it, I'll do it." He had a listen to the Diseased and the other things as well, and came back to me and said, yeah, I'm really keen. He was dead excited about it, and he's retired now, so he's probably in his, I don't know, he'd be in his late 60s, I would imagine, or mid 60s. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, and he's like 52 or something like that. But I don't.
28.
Because we kind of wanted to step away from the sort of digital photographic artwork, and we wanted to go with something a bit more traditional, just so it stood out. Really, from more a label searching thing to kind of make it a bit more impact driven, you know. So when it lands for some A&R guy to listen to it, he sees the artwork and thinks, "Oh, I want to listen to it," and maybe that will just make him listen to a bit more than the first song or whatever. So that was the whole purpose of it, really. So obviously with this one, I gave him the lyrics that I had at that point and a demo of the title track as well, because I'd just done that. I was quite impressed with how that sounded, and he was just so excited by how aggressive it was, because he doesn't listen to this kind of music, so he heard it and thought, "Oh, that this is it was right up his street." And he just started writing ideas down, and then he kind of came up with it, and then lo and behold, this is it. I mean, the eye in the middle, he created a model of that. He made a model himself. Yeah, it was just like this eye, and he modelled it so he could get all the shading right of it. And then, because it's a painting.
Yeah. So it's proper art rather than Adobe Illustrator.
Fully analog.
Yeah, which makes it difficult for shirts, etc., because you can't unlayer it, if you will. So is it. But,
so,
that is the painting. Yeah.
So that's put your merch costs up then.
Yeah.
So UK scene at the moment, it's pretty damn vibrant. You got the old boys, the original, Acid Rain, Onslaught, Zentrix, you mentioned, all come back over the last couple of years. Tons of new blood as well. Do you think it's a good time to be a UK thrash band?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's been this strong since the 80s.
No.
Do you see that? Obviously, I think it's in some ways it's easier for bands to get started. A kid can sit in his bedroom, with a guitar and a YouTube, and he can plug it into, GarageBand or whatever he wants to try and get the sound he wants. And he's going backwards into history and looking at all those things. You think is that the reason there's so many of these 16, 18-year-old bands, not 16 or 18, bands full of 16 or 18-year-olds who are busting out kind of these albums with lots of skill, but sometimes from a guitar playing point of view, especially some of these lads are super talented, but maybe haven't got the songwriting skills yet.
Every credit to them. If anybody's making music, however they're doing it, every credit to them, and carry on doing it, because what they're doing means that it's still relevant for us to carry on doing what we're doing. And like we say, all the bands from the 80s still releasing albums. If these younger kids hadn't got into it, there wouldn't be that that buzz. I think one of the other things as well, I think possibly one of the reasons that it's kind of come back around is a lot of the people who were into the music back in the 80s, etc., have kind of grown up now, and they remember that and want that buzz back. So when all the bands reappeared, like Acid Rain, Zentrix, etc. I mean, Onslaught never really went away, to be fair. Well, there was a slight period where they did, but they've all come back. It's like people are reliving the youth, so.
Or never grown up, as my wife keeps telling me. I'm not having a midlife crisis. I'm still 17. So
why not?
I think you're right though. He's tapped that vein, hasn't it? We've all gone. Those of us who were like 15, 16, 17 at the back end of the 80s. We've had the kids. They've hopefully fucking off to university and not bothering us for too much cash. What about some of these bands? Do you still listen to lots of thrash? Do you still listen to a lot of these young up and coming bands?
Everyone knows me. I'm still stuck in about 1989. I think something like that.
I think I'm the one in the band that listens to the new bands and the more to the newer stuff. But over here in Leeds, it's such a mixed scene. You've got thrash bands. There's an absolutely thriving doom scene over here. There's all sorts. So, I mean, almost every week I've got somebody sending me new things to listen to, or somebody sending new recommendations through. But as the guys alluded to, there's so much great stuff out there that it can be a bit overwhelming when every week it's just like, you must get like 20, 30 links to here's my new demo or here's my new album or check this out. It's crazy, but it's also keeping these scenes alive and vibrant, especially I guess during lockdown. The more music getting shared around, the more sort of new bands forming because they can do things over the internet. Everyone's got time. That when we finally come out of lockdown, I think there's going to be there's going to be a real explosion on the live scene again. I think gig attendance is going to go through the roof come whenever February, March next year, whatever.
Or the year after.
Or the year after.
What about that? You guys have grown up at the kind of the back end of the more traditional media, that record sales mean something and all that sort of stuff. How have you fully embraced the streaming, the land of putting stuff on Spotify? I know previously you used Bandcamp quite extensively and things like that, but you've always backed it up with lots of merch and and physical copies. Are you somewhere in between? Is Spotify deemed as important to you guys or not so much?
I think Spotify is the sum of all your other efforts, really. So it's not financially viable if if that's your main source of income, really, unless you're getting 1 million streams a month or whatever. So I think basically Spotify or the digital streaming sites are, if illegal downloading was just totally ripping bands off, then Spotify is ripping bands off, but also giving you like a pat on the back to say, oh yeah, thanks. It is half a pence, So, but you can't get consumed by it. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it does you any favors. So, you can't become obsessed with it, and it's different because a band of full of 40-year-olds and people whose fan base is probably around the same age is going to have a different outlook than a band of 16, 17-year-olds whose view of music or view of what a single being released or what an album being released is totally different. And you've got to kind of remember that. I mean, our target audience is probably from 30, late 30s through to mid to late 50s, something like that, I would say, in terms of the people that are into us. Yeah, I mean, throughout the years, we've always had kids turning up to the shows and we've loved it. They might have been wearing Deftones shirts or Linkin Park or whatever back in, then, but they've still been at the front enjoying it because, once Royston started hitting that snare at 100 and 220 beats a minute, you can't fail to, be into that. And I think, everybody's always loved Slayer and Metallica, and what we do sounds like what they did in the 80s. So it's always been, they've always been part of it. So yeah, I suppose you've just got to accept it, that it's there, and whatever we do, it doesn't mean a lot. So
yeah, certainly have changed, that's for sure. Yeah. The Spotify and the Apple and everything like that. I mean, some kids, don't even realise what a CD is these days, I don't think. So,
like, you buy a new laptop and it doesn't come with a drive-in anymore. How are you supposed to rip it to iTunes? It's impossible.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it is a different world from even when I joined the band, obviously. Like I said, there are a lot of younger bands coming up and like Richard was saying, their demographic and what they would buy and listen to now is completely different to 20 years ago when it's, but yeah, that's the sign of the times.
Do you have to think about that when you put a set list together? Kind of the album playlist together. Obviously, we would have gone vinyl. You would have gone all of side A and all of side B. CD, you listen to the whole thing all the way through. Now everything's in shuffle mode. Do you feel like you've got to grab attention with a couple of songs, or do you just kind of approach things the way that you've always approached it?
No, we always look at an album as an album, really.
I think it's kind of like a traditionalist approach, isn't it? I mean, you want to, you're trying to create something. So it can be frustrating that, you know, these days, like, music isn't played in the track order that you want or whatever. I mean, I guess, and to be fair, records have always been written in terms of, you know, you have certain tracks that are more upbeat, you have certain tracks that are a bit more mid-paced or a bit groovier or whatever. So you're always looking to have a mix of that on a record. So I think if you were to start obsessing over, oh, but what about if it comes up after this, or what about if someone's listening to a playlist of that and this drops in, you'd drive yourself insane, wouldn't you? You know, you've just got to create the vision that you get, you know.
So obviously COVID was still, well, going back into lockdown, especially kind of anyone north of Manchester, it looks like, you know, we're really in the shit again. What are the plans? Are you guys, you know, have you got tentative ideas about what you want to do? Obviously, there's going to be no massive album launch party or, you know, anything like that. What, you know, have you got some kind of tentative plans for how you're going to promote the album out, or you're just going to have to do it virtually?
I think, you know, we sort of realised that very early on, in terms of, you know, when we knew that it was going to be released this year. So I think the first thing we thought was, well, there isn't going to be any shows, because I think initially, sort of like March time, when Metalville said we're going to put it out in the autumn, we thought, we'll definitely have some gigs then. It'll be fine by then, you know, because we had the shows with Acid Rain that were due at the end of September, and then we were off out to Denmark as well. So it was like, well, brilliant, you know, perfect timing. But then as time progressed, we kind of realised, we're in trouble here. So we sort of then at that point said, right, well, how are we going to promote it? And then the only way to really do it is by doing promo videos. So that's what we're doing. So yes, we're not playing live, but we're still able to rehearse, we're still able to shoot videos, etc. So that's the plan, really. You've got to have a backup plan, and the only way to do that is by having product, really, or something that people can associate with. So that's the plan. And we've got a couple. We've got a couple already in the pipeline of videos, and then some, you know, plans to do some more later on in the year. So that's what we're doing.
That's what you're going to have stuck with for, at least until maybe Easter time next year. That maybe hopefully things start getting back to some sort of normality.
My view is, I think this album will probably not be supported by live shows. I don't think it will. I think by the time we've got Hammerfest booked next March, so hopefully that'll come off. That's great. But if Hammerfest doesn't happen, I can't see anything else happening. I can't see it changing dramatically. So, but then again, a lot of the shows from 2020 have been moved to the same date in 2021. So, yeah. But the good thing is nobody has any advantage. You know, everybody's in the same boat. So it's just about making sure that you do your best. I mean, who knows? We just have to see how it goes.
I've seen a few things. I watched a bit of the Destruction live stream thing that they've got in a massive field, and everyone's in a scaffolding pig pen, and you know, it's a very weird environment to go to a thrash gig in.
Well, we've been doing socially distanced gigs for years, like, you know, so.
In the Dog and Trumpet with only 3 people watching, it's easy to stay 2 meters apart.
Yeah. We're used to that, aren't we, Royston? Like, you know.
We've been leaders in it, haven't we? We've been trendsetters for a long time.
That's a nice strap line, isn't it? Socially distancing since 1994.
Let's get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. So the new album, you've gone, as you said, you've gone big with the bundles. There's some really nice stuff. Very nice green vinyl, hoodies, tees. I take it, you know, you've always been pretty good with the merch. You know, you hit the merch hard. You know, pre-sales, getting people's names on the anniversary EP. You know, do you find that's a really, you know, a good way of driving interest in the album, is kind of people getting invested early, even before they've heard it?
Yeah, I think a lot of it stems from, because we did that when we did the live album back in 20 2013 or whatever. Our manager at the time, Steve from Intune PR, he suggested, because that was around the time when there was all these sort of pledge campaigns and all that, pledge music campaigns and GoFundMe and all that business. So Steve suggested that because obviously we didn't have any money, why don't you do a pledge campaign? And at the time, I think we were all four of us at the time were a bit dubious whether it'd pay off. We said, we haven't got enough fans for that. And I think we completed it within about 7 or 8 days, so kind of from that point onwards, I thought, well, this is a good opportunity for us, this. And we've always tried to make sure that we've got more than 2 or 3 lines of merch. So it just looks a bit more appealing. So, 3 or 4 different types of shirts and all that kind of, it creates interest. It's marketing, isn't it? It just brings people in. So, and then with the pre-orders, that's it's a good way of us, getting some interest in the release, etc. And it tempts people to sort of buy from us rather than going to Amazon, and we can try and recoup some of the money for the next one. So that's what we do.
Cool. Okay. Quick fire questions. Feel free to throw out. Slammer or Sabbath?
Slammer.
Who said Sabbath?
Who said
Slammer? Me.
The Slammer.
Mosh pit or circle pit?
Marsh pit.
Mosh.
Thank fuck for that. CD or vinyl?
CD.
CD.
In fairness.
CD, yeah.
Headline show or festival slot?
Festival.
Festival.
Okay. Wine or beer? From tonight's situation, I think it's beer all around, and a nice water for Rich, or unless that was vodka. Death metal or doom metal?
Yeah.
Death metal.
And the most difficult one of all, pineapple and ham or tuna and banana pizza?
Pineapple and lamb. Definitely.
Hawaiian all day long.
Absolutely.
Okay, finally, your chance to kind of plug, give the details, release dates and all that good stuff, and generally pimp yourselves out to all 6 people that listen to this show. On a good day.
Buy our shit. It's not shit, just buy it.
You've got to be careful where you put the comma in that sentence, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. New album. I'm sorry, I'm reading off the website here because I can't even remember when the album comes out.
I'll tell you what, I know what's going on. Do you want me to talk?
Richard.
Yeah, so we've got the first song off the album is out next Friday, and that's released obviously digitally, and there's a video for that one, and then the second one is 2 weeks later on the 11th of October, I think, and then the album's out on the 23rd of October.
Perfect. And buy merch, etc., all via your website, solitary.org.uk, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Come to us and we'll sort you out. And obviously, but one of the things, anybody who buys the merch bundles, we're actually doing a Zoom call like we've had tonight, but with everybody who's been involved, so we can just spend the evening with everybody who kind of supports us. We can have a chat, have a drink, and just generally
shoot the shit.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, according to your shipping, you've only just delivered the stuff you paid for about 2 years ago, mate. So now you've got control of your e-commerce again. I'll order some more.
Yeah. You'll be waiting a while though, because you haven't even got. It's got to come from Germany, all this stuff. So yeah. So that's
guys. Thanks for joining us. I'm a big fan anyway, but the new album's fucking killer. I got it from Chris on Saturday, and it's been played round and round, and loud on the car and loud when I was walking the dogs earlier, and I'm fucking loving it. So congratulations on really knocking it out of the park.
Thank you very much, man.
Hopefully get to see you live sometime again. If not, Bloodstock next year. There's an extra day on the festival. It's got to be, you've got to be battering your eyelids at Vicky for that. But otherwise, good luck, and I'll see you on the Zoom call.
Take it easy, man.
Yeah, thanks, Neil.
Massive thanks to Solitary there for joining us in the virtual studio, and a big extra thanks to Rich, who did lots of the editing of that interview. New album is out, as we said, at the end of next month. First single is out today, so go check that out. We'll put the link in the show notes. And this is Solitary, taken from their 25 anniversary EP. This is Keep Your Enemies Closer. Next up is our international band of the episode. This is a band from the USA called Bomb Scare, taken from their Bastions of Blood EP. This is Cognitive Split. And that's it. Thank you for joining us. You're reaching the end of this episode. But before we go, we're going to play one more tune. This is Ipswich Elimination from their latest EP of Galton Beast. This is What Have I Done? And thanks for joining us. See you next time.